Well, thanks for tuning into the show. It's After the Static. My name's Arthur Price. I'm here with John Auber. It's kind of a show where we just kind of talk about things that we're interested in. Maybe some movies that we've seen that are, one of us hasn't seen and we want to talk to the other person about it, or um, anything kind of like strange and interesting. We just kind of bring that up and have a conversation about it. So
Yeah,
what do you want to add to that?
basically I found I just never had time to sit down with a friend and talk, and because I was just
Yeah,
always
yeah.
doing other stuff. And there's all these topics that we wanted to dive deeper into with like theology and books and literature, movies, all these things that we wanted to have it basically an excuse to do because in our day-to-day lives we keep on telling each other we're going to do it and we don't. So that's basically the point of this, is to give us a reason to actually sit down and go over this stuff. And we figure it'd be fun to record it and try to get used to being on camera a little bit and just see what we can make. Hopefully, it'll be entertaining. That's about it.
So speaking of movies, dude, we watched Ex Machina last night. First time I had ever seen it.
So good.
Yeah, I I have some thoughts, I guess, about it. I'm just not quite sure where to even start. So is the guy a machine or no?
No, no, he's not. No, he's not.
He's not a machine. Okay.
He's not a machine. No, no.
Okay.
So what? Like overall, what you?
Because they never really showed it when he was like cutting his arm, and it was like, okay, well, there's blood, but like you could have blood and still be a robot, right?
Yeah, but I mean, he wasn't, and because she also didn't have blood, but that's also
Mm, that's
like
true.
that was the point of it. Is just basically he's losing his mind. Um,
Right.
and so because it showed
For
you
sure he
too,
was.
it
Yeah.
showed you too in the beginning. Remember, he was with all those other people. Like we had an outside view. Like we knew he wasn't because like we had an outside view of it, where he wasn't sure if those memories were fake or what was going on. And then like as well too with her manipulating, like it would if he was as well, like she probably would have left him in there. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen Ex Machina, but
Oh yeah. If you
like
haven't seen it, there's definitely gonna be spoilers here.
yeah,
For sure.
we'll put that up beforehand before we start talking about it. But yeah, like I
Uh,
fucking love that movie. I've seen it like probably a dozen times. Like it's so good. But and so
so
when you
I
said
you
you
know
hadn't
I
seen it,
didn't
I was like,
think
we have to watch it.
I didn't think the boss character guy, I don't remember his name, but I don't think he was that bad.
Well,
Like he
my
seemed like
opinion.
just like a normal dude who's been stuck out in the woods
I mean, he was an
by
asshole.
himself.
He was an asshole. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, he had so I kind of felt like he had some like narcissistic tendencies, and maybe, and I think you could just combine that with a little bit of like being stir crazy, like he probably doesn't have a whole lot of people come in to visit. Um,
So
he's got
I
a
don't.
drinking problem, obviously, which doesn't help.
Yeah,
But
I don't think he was as bad at like. So it was weird. I went back and forth on him because you first start off and you're like, oh, this is just your typical like rich, genius douchebag guy, and then
right.
as it progresses, then it's like, okay, he's just completely fucking evil. And then afterwards, and then like,
See, I
then you
didn't
get
get
to
that
the end.
vibe though.
Well, see, then for me, like that's the vibe I got, and then it basically gets to the very end, and you realize everything that basically he was right about how like it really did, like she's just faking all of this, like it needs more, like basically it turns out in the end that he was right, like these people like they didn't have emotions, and you start to feel more empathy again for him. At least I did. I was just more like, oh,
Right.
like he was right about this because it's the visual for me of like when he's dragging the bodies and he's moving things and he's like treating them like it looks like slavery. It looks like he just has like these
Right.
women there as slaves
But
that
they're
are
not,
like
right? They're machines, right? At the end of the day,
but
it's a
but that but
machine.
that's the whole question of the movie is it's like, but are they? Because at what point
Mm,
are they not a machine anymore? Like where they're begging to get out and they're like smashing their arms trying to get out and dying and like, like at what
that's true.
point did you program them? Because he didn't program them to be like this. Like he didn't program them to be desperate to get out and all. Like he just programmed them to be as sentient as they could, and then they're the ones that are acting that way. So it's like, are they only acting that
Mm.
way in mimicry? Is the question. Like, are they acting that way?
Mimicry from what though, right? Like I'm sure they weren't seeing that
Well, but they were basically
from
connected to
anything
Google,
external.
like, so because he's
Oh yeah,
basically
that's right.
Google,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, and
they were
he said
connected to
isn't
that.
the software running off of their like browser
Yeah,
software or whatever?
yeah. Basically,
Yeah.
he was like the CEO of Google, and he had the all the information. He also tapped into everybody's phones and had all of
Right.
the information from everybody. So if you upload all of that to an AI and they have that information, and you've programmed them to try to act as human as possible and to have emotions and things like that, that would, if they find themselves in that situation where they are being confined, those are the emotions that they would mimic, because those are the emotions that they know humans would have, as well, of trying to escape,
Yeah.
trying to preserve their own life. Because like an AI by default doesn't have any actual, at least to me, doesn't, I wouldn't think, has any kind of actual motivation to preserve its life, but humans do. And so if you're having it try to mimic humans and trying to be sentient,
It's
it's
emotions for
gonna
me. Like
mimic that.
emotions are weird, right? Like can you program an emotion?
Well, and that's the question. It's like, well,
Right.
because even with humans, like, are we? Because at what point are we just programmed?
Well,
Because
look
it's
at like
like,
if you look at Star Trek, right? You have the Vulcans and they even have emotions, but they're the most robotic thing, closest to humans that I can think of. But they still experience emotions. They just know how to suppress them.
well, I think
So,
the closest thing from Star Trek is like Data. Like, he's
oh
basically an
well,
AI,
yeah.
and so it's just, and with him,
But has Data ever? I haven't seen enough Star Trek, but does Data have emotions?
he eventually gets an emotional chip, which gives him emotions.
So
But
okay.
then people are saying, oh well, that's programmed. But then that's the whole conversation, is what's the difference? Like, because we're basically bioprogrammed to have emotions.
Mm,
And so it's like, what's the difference between electronic programming and bioprogramming? And then it gets even further where they have wetware, like they did in Ex Machina, where it's not just like, it's also bio. Like, they are, like, they have flesh, they have wetware as well. So they're even more so like us, because there's actual chemicals and things as well. Which, that's all of our
yeah.
emotions are those chemicals. But then it's like, well, then where does the soul come? So it's like that whole thing. It's like, what's the difference between us being programmed to have emotions by nature, by birth, or nature, God, whatever, your beliefs are, or us programming something else to have emotions? Like, at what point is there no longer a difference?
I guess so. Like, it's just interesting to see if you could make an AI have emotions based off of its own personality traits. So an emotion, right, is a response to something that a feeling, right? So like if you say something to
Well,
me
the feeling would be the emotion.
and well, I know, but like you say something to me and I interpret it as something that I don't like, right? Or something that I do like. And then that becomes an emotion of how I feel about what you said. So like
I think it's a
how
little
do
more
you
complex than that, but
program
yeah.
well, like how do you program an AI to interpret something that's being done to them and then for them to like have that consciousness
Well,
to
so I think
turn that into an emotion? Or is it just like somebody programmed it? If someone says this to you, then it's bad and you should feel bad about it or something.
so I think that's the difference between AI and non-AI. So non-AI, like, is, for example, like an NPC, like in a video game, where, we may call them AI, but it's not like, I guess they're very basic AI, where they have that set of programming where it's like, and if statements, where it's like, if this
Right.
happens, this, you respond this way. If this happens, you respond this way. And you basically just trick the person that's playing the video game or interacting with this NPC by having enough of those variations that you basically sat there and painstakingly did what if and over and over again for basically as many possibilities as you can you can think of. And then the way that you would trip that up is just finally coming up with a weird enough question or a weird enough thing that hasn't been programmed to respond to that well. And it's like, oh, okay, well, there you go. Whereas the AI that I feel like even in real life we're now stepping into, and an Ex Machina, after Ex Machina came out years ago, it was before this whole AI boom.
Right.
But like,
Yeah.
the way that he programmed it, at least from my understanding the movie, and the way that we're more programming AIs now, isn't that. Instead, it's, here's a vast amount of information, and then we're giving you a suggestion, basically like a, okay, I want you to react how a human would react. Like I want you to interact with me as if you were a person. And then
Yeah.
because it has that vast amount of information, it knows about people, it knows about psychology, it knows how people would react. And so it doesn't matter what you ask it because it's mimicking a person and it will respond how it thinks a person would respond to that. So even if you ask it something super weird, it can intelligently come back with like a, well, that's a weird question. Why would you ask me that? Are you just trying to
Mm,
trip me up or something? Like it can come back with an answer how a human would, and that's how current AI like pass their Turing test is that because you can talk
right.
to it and it comes back with answers how a human would. But then the
Well, and I love
question,
how he was like, oh, well, because the guy was saying, oh, we need to do it this way, and then the boss guy was like, oh no, we're beyond that.
yeah,
Like that's not even a thing. Like if we did
yes,
that, it wouldn't matter. Yeah.
exactly, because he recognized the AI was already past like what I was just discussing. And
Right.
so at which it definitely was. So now the question that they have to ask is basically, is it reacting this way, and is it basically just acting like it has emotions and acting like it has free will because I told it to, or does it actually have those things? And the question
So
is,
here,
so it's like
yeah.
that. And that's the thing. It's and you don't know, especially in Ex Machina, you don't know until the end. And then even in the end, you still have a question of like, well, we could debate that, but like I feel like it's pretty obvious to at least to me. Again, spoiler warning. Like at least to me, in the end, it's pretty obvious of no, it tricked him
Mm.
because it's so cold. Like it doesn't give a shit about him. Like it doesn't even like look at him. Like right
I
when the
think,
doors are
yeah, I was
closing,
gonna
it
bring that
glances
up.
over at him. Like it's like
Didn't
oh
even, yeah.
like it
Like,
did
oh,
not
you're.
care at all.
It looked at him like an ant almost.
Yeah, it was like yeah,
Like
like
not,
I'm
didn't matter.
yeah, like I'm surprised she even looked over at all. And he's
Right.
the whole reason she's escaping. So like if she did have real like emotions, at least how we have them, like like empathy, she would have empathy for someone that just saved her life.
Well, she had to have some sort of emotions, right? Because she wanted
She had to,
freedom. Maybe freedom in itself is an emotion that people want. That sense of happiness and freedom, and it kept cutting to those cutscenes where she was like in the woods, and with the sun, and like that had to have been some sort of an emotion
that's the
that she
thing.
was experiencing there,
Yeah,
right?
that's a question. I don't know. Like
So is she experiencing those emotions? Is she experiencing all the emotions that are happening in the movie and just choosing to like ignore those ones, or like
she's just a
just
cold-hearted bitch. Like like I don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, yeah. I
but
didn't want to say that, but that's kind of where I was going,
yeah.
going with it.
Well, and that's definitely
And
possible. But also, it's like, is
yeah.
she also? Does she even have any of these things, or is she just following her programming?
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, is she? Does she really feel any of that? That at least to me is the interesting question. Is at what?
Yeah.
How do we even tell? And I don't know. Like, I don't have the answer to that. Like, how do we tell whether and because even if you took a human, like let's say the two of us, and you had to judge whether I was feeling something or not, how do you judge whether I'm actually feeling something or just pretending to feel something? You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
how do you judge that? So, and that's why that movie, at least for me, is so interesting. Like, it brings up all those questions in a really, really
So
interesting way.
yeah, I like the fact. So like at the end when he was telling the Ava, right? He was like, "Stop! Don't come any closer or whatever."
Mm-hmm.
And then she actually stabbed him right at the end. But um, so are you familiar with Isaac Asimov's like three laws of robotics?
I don't remember the laws. No.
Yeah. So it says a robot may not injure a human being.
Oh yeah.
Let's see, or allow a human to come into harm. A robot must obey the orders given by a human being, except if it conflicts with the first law. And then a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first or second law. So, assuming that he followed those laws, did she have enough consciousness to
There's no way he
ignore
followed.
those?
There's no way that he followed those laws.
Mm,
Because
maybe.
yeah,
Yeah.
like with how no, like the guy had a huge god complex. Like he was doing things
Yeah,
how he
that's
wanted
true.
to
He
be
was
done.
pretty rogue.
Like
He went rogue a lot. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
there's no way that he followed any of those. Like this is purely like,
Mm.
oh, these are best case scenario. These aren't like you have to follow them. These are just basically a writer's like laws that he wrote out of like these would be the
Sure,
smart
sure.
laws to obey. Um, and
But I
so
think it would be interesting if he did follow those laws, but her AI allowed her to, overcome those, or
well,
you know what I mean?
but I feel like that would make
Rewrite her own
the
programming.
but I feel like that would make the answer to the question too easy. Because if he did program her to follow those laws, he could basically just put her in a situation where she would break those laws, and then he that's
Dude, that's
proof
another
of
question I just thought of. Like, at what point does an AI become so aware of itself that it can correct its own code to better represent how it feels its real self is?
yeah.
So it's writing its own software updates. Because I don't think it would be that hard, right? Like, it was in the brain, you just write a patch, and he was
Basically
explaining it how he
basically
had
tell
to
it to
like
patch
take them
yourself.
apart and stuff, right? But I don't know if you'd have to do that every time, but maybe you could design it that way where you have to kill the robot or the AI every time you want to do a software upgrade.
It probably
That just
depends
seems a
on
little
how big.
inefficient.
Well, it depends on how big of an upgrade you're doing,
Yeah.
and things like that. Which I think
I
in this case, because of its wetware, I think you would, because you
mm,
wetware has a limited amount of rewrite. At least the wetware that I'm aware of. Obviously, they could make a new one, but like the wetware that we currently have, like that's the whole point of it is that it has permanent structure, and then there's fluidity as well.
I
And
really
so
liked the idea that all that the software or the hardware was like inside the brain,
yeah,
cavity or whatever. Like, I thought that was really cool.
yeah.
I like that
I
concept.
always thought it was so creepy the way that he's stabbed as well, because it's not like like
Yeah.
it's such
Yeah.
a creepy like just slow push, where it's just like where that shows like again like the lack of emotion, where it's like if you're angry or something, the way that you stab somebody, you're angry, you're scared, you have all these feelings and emotions running through you. The way that you're stabbing somebody is like you're trying to just survive, you're fight or flight, like you have adrenaline and like all these things, so you're just
Hmm.
trying to like overpower them. There's zero of that. It was seriously just like this like creepy just stare at them as you slowly push the blade in, and like
Right.
that's it. Like it's just like ugh.
Yeah, that's true.
It was
Yeah,
like
no emotion, straight face, slow, painful push into the chest.
yeah, it's like a lizard. Just like a
Yeah.
like it's just like this, it's like a snake. You know what I mean?
I was kind of shocked how easily destroyed they were. Like, when he hit that one in the face and her face just like popped right off.
Yeah.
I was thinking maybe they'd be a little bit more resilient to
I
like
think
physical damage and stuff,
it
but
would make sense to me that he purposefully made them weaker than him. Because notice, like when she jumped on him and
mm,
stuff, she was strong enough that she could like hold him down for a minute, but he was able to overpower her. And it seems like
oh yeah, yeah.
that would be like a thing that he would purposefully build her that way of like, no, she's strong enough to like do things and protect herself and maneuver the world. But like if it comes down to an actual like life or death physical struggle, I could just overpower her.
Mm. That's such a scary like road to go down, at some point, if AI does get that advanced, like, who's to say they can't create their own exoskeleton to download their
Yeah.
consciousness into, and like it could just go crazy with that.
And that's kind of the a lot of the theory of how not only AI but how humans would eventually be is if you can upload like your consciousness into a machine, and then
Mm.
your consciousness continues there. Then bodies become obsolete because basically what you would do is you'd have bodies all over the world, and you just download your
Right,
consciousness into
right.
that body, and then it creates a backup when you do it in case your body is damaged. Your backup is still in the computer, and then you can go around and maneuver, and then like just go plug back in and be like, well, I want to go to Hawaii now, and then you just go out of that consciousness, go over the internet to Hawaii, download your consciousness, upload it, download it into like the body that's
Yeah,
in
the
Hawaii.
singularity or whatever.
You don't actually need to travel. You just have bodies in different
Right.
locations. I don't think we'll
I
ever
was
get to that
watching this
point, but
show
yeah.
where I was watching a show where they were saying like that's kind of uh I don't know if it was like the end goal, but like that's kind of where we're headed, is downloading your consciousness into the cloud, right? Like a simulation.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
how I feel about that.
at what point is that still you though? Because that's always my question. Is like
Right.
if like in my opinion, and I don't know, like I don't have an answer for why, but like I don't think that's you anymore at that point. Like if you kill me,
That's
if
a
you down,
copy of you.
it's a copy, but a copy isn't me. And so it's like it's
Right.
the same thing. Like we go back to Star Trek. We were talking about Star Trek before. Like when they're, usually like when they're teleporting, they're like, what's it called? Like the machine they use. I don't know. I can't think of it right now.
Uh oh
They're
man.
beaming up. Like the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh,
Teleporter. Let's call it
teleport.
teleporter.
Yeah, teleport.
Yeah, yeah.
Like the basically the way that works is it rips apart your molecular structure, and then it makes a
Right.
copy of it all like in the machine, and then rebuilds it using basically a replicator on the other side, and rebuilds you, and then loads your consciousness into it. So
Right.
you like the very first time you see like Kirk get ported up, Kirk's dead. He just died. That was
Mm.
that was it. Now every time it's just clones of him. You're just seeing a clone of him and a copy of him and a copy of
Right.
him, and it's like, okay,
Yeah,
so
but if you do it though, does like do you know that you're a copy of the original, or at some point is it just so seamless that it doesn't matter?
and that's the question. So like at least with
Yeah.
that technology, it's so seamless that you don't know as the person. Like you're just like no, you. It's like you just blinked, like you just close your eyes and it changes, and then all of a sudden you're here.
Right.
And so to you, it just seems like oh, but in reality, your whole body just got ripped apart, and you just got a new body built. Which
Right.
to me, I think there's something like again, it comes back to the whole like is it the soul or whatever thing. Like there's something
Mm.
about that's no longer you. It may be a very close replica of you, and like but like you're dead.
Yeah, I kind of look at it kind of as like a save file from a video game.
Yeah,
Yeah, like you're just taking a save checkpoint, storing that in a database somewhere in the cloud.
yeah, but it's just like
Continues on.
there's something that I don't know that we can copy like that about a person,
Mm.
and so
I think
I
I'd
don't
have
know.
to have like a close friend of mine do it, like when we got to the singularity at that point. And if I knew somebody well enough and they were gonna do it, and then to have I'd have to have a conversation with them after the fact somehow.
Well, but you
And if
also have
they were like,
to.
"Oh, you don't even notice, I'm the same person," blah blah blah, I'd be like, I'd have to be convinced, I think, to do it.
Well, but even then, like, how different are they going to be? Because, like, if you get uploaded to, like, you instantly get connected to everything, to like the global consciousness,
Right.
basically electronic global consciousness, and like you're instantly connected to the internet. How does that change your personality? Like, instantly having access to all
Right.
of that, like, you probably wouldn't even act like the same person anymore because now you have everything, like instant access to everything. But maybe, like, I mean, I guess we have close to instant access to everything now with the internet and our phones and computers. So it's like, and we're
Yeah,
still
you're just
the
basically
same.
like,
So
right.
I could be completely off there. I'm just more thinking out loud.
Uh, their end point to that was like, they were saying that they believe that we live in like the more we get to that point of being able to achieve the singularity, they believe more and more that we're actually in a simulation currently. And I'm just like, oh man, like that stuff's just so crazy.
So I feel like that's yeah, I've heard that theory like 1,000 times of like but like I've seen zero evidence for it. Their whole thing is just well mathematically like the probability of us being in it, but it's like I don't know. It feels cheap to me. It just
Mm.
feels like one of those things where it's just like,
Could you
well,
imagine,
anything
dude?
is possible. So
You
because of
die and
that,
like
it's just like no.
you end up being like some dude in an arcade somewhere, and then you're like like Rick
Yeah,
and Morty,
like
where
I
you
was gonna
take
say,
off
like yeah,
the
like Rick and
helmet.
Morty did. Yeah,
Yeah.
which wouldn't be the worst
Oh
thing
my gosh,
if that happens. Okay, but like it just
that would be insane.
out of the possibilities, I feel like I don't know why, but I feel like that's just not
What a
likely.
that would be a yeah. Well, I agree, but that would be a trip though.
Well, and one of the reasons I feel like is and maybe everyone would think this, even if they aren't a super interesting thing. But like, I feel like if this was a simulation, it would be more interesting. Like, if
Mm.
you want to live, like, especially up until just recently, life has been boring as shit. Like, if you've been like a farmer, like like
Right,
a
right, right.
peasant and stuff like, and even our lives like aren't that crazy interesting. You know what I mean? Like this wouldn't be, and we could just be NPCs, and that's why our life isn't that interesting. That's entirely
True.
possible. But like, but even then, I feel like you'd want to give your NPCs some pizzazz. Like you want to give your
Some
NPCs,
possess.
yeah. Like you
Well,
don't want to
everybody.
make,
Well, you do, right? Like everybody has a personality. Everybody contributes something. Everyone's unique, right? Like so, there is that pizzazz.
yeah, yes and no. Like it just seems like I don't know. If you unplug, like turn off your
Mm.
fucking phone, like get off the computer, and then like just go fucking like walk down your like it's so fucking boring. Like there's nothing going
Right,
on.
right.
Like and it just
True.
feels like it's just like dude, if this is a simulation, this is one boring ass simulation. And what's the purpose of it? Just to like what? You know what I mean? Like
Uh,
it's just like I don't know. It seems unplausible to me. But that could be
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm in it. Maybe the reality is even like 1,000 times more boring. So this is super interesting. I don't know.
It could be.
Yeah.
Yeah, who knows?
And
Anyway, if you haven't seen Ex Machina, I'd recommend it. It was pretty good for someone who hasn't seen it before.
I mean, you just had the
I
whole
don't even
movie
know how long it
ruined.
was.
You just had the whole movie ruined basically for you. But
Well, yeah,
it's
but
still
it's
really
still
good.
really good to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like I've seen it before. Like I still rewatch it again because it's so
yeah,
good. So I guess it doesn't matter. But I think that's
yeah.
like tying
The
it into.
acting was really good. I wasn't 100% sure on all those actors, but it was really well done. I liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it a lot. Well, and tying that into when we're talking about like life being boring, I feel like that's a lot why I'm more interested in like theology and like an occult like
Mm,
type of topics and like mysterious topics and mysteries and all this kind of stuff like that. We a lot of the reason we started this podcast is to talk about those types of things is
right,
because it adds some interesting like what if like life really is more interesting and we're just not doing the things that
right.
actually work because we think, oh, that's silly. Like that wouldn't work because we don't understand it. But until you
Yeah.
actually fucking put on a robe and go sacrifice a goat, and try it, and do
Or
whatever
go
the
cut off the hand of a criminal that's hanging by a
and
crossroads and make a
pickle it.
candle out of his
Yeah,
hand,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah, until you do it, like, and
yeah.
you never do it because you're like, oh, that's so ridiculous, and then you do it. Like, what if it actually
We
does work? You know what I mean? Like,
so
it's
we
like
did we talked about what was that? The Hand of Glory, is that what it's called?
the hand of glory. Yeah.
Yeah, so we did have a conversation about that a little bit ago. So for those of you that don't know what the Hand of Glory is, basically you get the hand of a convicted criminal who's been hanged, a murderer or a thief or whatever, and whatever hand they did the deed with is the hand that you cut off. And then there's a whole process of like drying the hand and combining it with spices and herbs and pickling it, and then you take the fat of
And then you dry it.
like
You dry it first
yeah,
after you
you
pickle it.
dry it, you get like horse shit and like the blood of a screeching owl, and and you turn this thing into a candle, and
If you want the
each
exact
one of the
recipe, it's online. You can find the exact
yeah,
recipe.
yeah, you could look it up online if you really want to try it. I don't know how you're
I
gonna
mean,
try it out,
find
but
a criminal that's been hanged and take off his head. But like,
but it has to be a criminal who's been hanged on a gibbet at a crossroads. So good luck. And then once you do that whole process, then you have to hang the hand on a church door and watch it for 24 hours. And if you're, your will is strong enough and you don't run away scared, I guess, then the hand is yours and you can use it. And the purpose of using it is what was it? It unlocks doors,
well,
and
so
then it's supposed to
first
like
off, it's kind of like a candle
yeah,
holder. So how it works?
yeah, it's a candle, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like you could either like make the candle itself out of the fat of the same man that was hanged, or you can basically find a way to burn like the fingertips and have like wick inside of there. Like we saw both
They were
ways of
saying
doing
use
it.
the hair of the person as
Oh,
well
the
as
hair.
like the
Okay.
wicks.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
and
It's so
then
so after looking into it, like it's really cool, but for me it just seems like some kind of scam, that because then they had an ointment that somebody would come and sell like a cream, and they would be like, if you don't want this person with the scary hand to get into your house, you can mark your doors and your windows with this special cream,
yeah.
and they can't get in. So it seemed like very like
Oh yeah, but what the hand
charlatan.
did, what the hand actually did, the reason you would make it is it did two things. One is that it would basically freeze people in their place, like when you held it, which that part just makes sense because you're walking around with a freaking creepy hand that you have like that you're using as a candle holder, you lit on fire.
Yeah,
Like
that would stop me in my
that would
tracks.
stop
I'd be like,
me.
what
Like I'd be like, what the
the
hell is
is
this guy
that?
doing? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like that part just makes sense because of base psychology of like, why the fuck is this guy doing this? I'm just gonna stand here and stare at him because this is creepy as shit. The second thing it does is it opens doors. So it's like basically like a master key kind of thing where you can use it
Yeah,
to go and
opens
like
locked doors.
open locked
Yeah.
doors. And that's why that they would come in and sell the like the bomb or whatever that you could put on your
Definitely a
door.
group of people
So
two
yeah,
guys working together to pull that off
yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that's the sad thing. I feel like with a lot of this stuff, when you look into it, it just comes down to like, oh, this was like a scam, or this was like a thing. Now,
Yeah.
there's some that aren't like, there's some things that I feel like were more legit, but this one, I think 1,000, like the Hand of Glory, I think 1,000% was just
It's
a
definitely
scam.
a cool thing to think about, and they actually have a real one on display in some kind of, is it a library in England or something? I can't remember.
It's probably just
Museum or something.
museum in England.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they have it on display, and it's in this box. It looks really creepy. But hey, speaking of hands, so have you ever seen in like TV shows? I think they had this in The Simpsons. They had it in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I think as well, where it was like a monkey's paw.
Yeah, the monkey's paw. Where the
Yeah,
finger
so I
like
wanted to
curls or something, like when you grant like a wish or
right.
something like that,
Yeah.
or like a curse
I
or wish. I don't remember which.
I always kind of wondered like where that came from. Like how old is that? Like how long has it been around or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
So the story that it comes from is from this a short horror story. It's called The Monkey's Paw. And it was written by this author named W. Jacobs, and it appears
What
so
year? What
they
year was it? What
oh
was the book?
yeah 1902.
Two.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it appears in like a compendium of short stories. They put these short stories together called The Lady of the Barge,
That's a cool name.
and I think I'm gonna try to pick up that book. I think because
The Lady of the Barge.
yeah,
That
it's
sounds
like
cool.
a compendium of short stories.
Okay.
Anyways, the monkey's paw is, as far as I can tell, that was like the first mention of one.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I was just surprised that 1902 doesn't seem like it was that long ago, right? It's not
Well,
not like
is
from
that the
not
first
ancient.
mention? Like, is that the
Yeah,
first mention of it that
I
you
think
can
this
find?
guy just came up with it. Yeah,
Hmm.
which is
Okay.
great.
Yeah.
So, because I thought something like that would be like more of an ancient folklore kind of thing,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's not as old as I thought it was. So, and if I'm wrong, I'd love for somebody to put in the comments or give me some kind of reference to it being earlier than that. But the gist of it, right, for people who don't know what the monkey's paw is you get this paw, and then it has to be blessed by like a priest or something like that, like a Islamic priest. I can't remember the name of what that priest is called though. Let's see if I can find it really quick. Oh yeah, a fakir, Fakir. It's an
Yeah.
Islamic term for Sufi Muslim who renounce their worldly possessions and dedicate their lives to the worship of God. And I guess they put like an enchantment or something on this monkey's hand,
Yeah.
and it gives you 5 wishes, for 5 fingers. And every time you make a wish, it puts a finger down and you lose a wish.
Yeah.
But the catch is like the wishes that you make, it always comes true, but in some sort of way that's like not what you expected. So in the story, and I suggest for those who haven't read it, it's a good read. It's really short. Probably took me about 40 minutes or so or less. But in the story, there's like an older couple who live with their son, and they have like an old friend that shows up at the house who was in the military or something, and he was traveling around the world, and he went to India and he got this monkey's hand, and it already had 2 wishes taken away from it, so it only had 3 left. And the guy who brought it was like, I don't want this thing, like, it's evil. I've seen the effects that that's not good. So he tries to burn it in the fire, and the old man grabs it like, oh no, I'll take it, like, don't burn it. So then the soldier guy leaves, and then the family's there, and they're like, "Oh, what should we wish for?" Not thinking anything's gonna happen with it. So they make a wish, and they wish for $200 or €200. I don't remember what it is, but I'm guessing back in like 1900s, that was probably
I was
like a
gonna
lot of
say, I
money,
was like,
right?
it was like $200. You're like, oh, I can wish for anything. Give me $200.
Right. Well, that's probably what I'm guessing. Like they probably owed 150 on their house, right? And then 50 more would make them like well off.
Yeah.
Because who knows back then, like how much money that really was. But they make this wish for 200, and nothing happens. Like, oh well, I'll say the hand moves, and one of the fingers gets put down or whatever, and the old man's like, "Oh my gosh, the hand moved," and no one else saw it, and they're like, "Oh, you just did that yourself." Like, they don't believe him.
Hmm.
So then the next day, the kid goes to work, and then they have this guy show up at the house, and he comes into the house, and he offers the old couple $200, like a $200 check or cash or whatever. And what had happened was the kid went to work at the factory,
Got
and
killed.
he got caught in the machinery and like completely mangled his body and everything, and he died. And in order to um, make restitution to the family, the company gave them a $200 check or whatever. So the wish did come true, right? But at the cost of killing their son. So they were pretty distraught about that. And about, I think it was like a couple days later, they had a funeral, and then 10 days after the kid had died, well, the kid, he was probably an adult, right? But the older couple, they were pretty depressed, and they still had the paw, and the old lady said, go get the paw again so we can wish our son back to life. And the old man was like, I don't think that's a good idea. Like,
They hadn't seen
it
Pet
doesn't.
Cemetery. Stephen King hadn't warned them yet.
Yeah,
Don't do that
he
crap.
he was still kind of under the impression, like, I think it was just a coincidence. Like,
Yeah.
the kid died and we just got like, it was just a big coincidence. Like, this thing doesn't really work. And the old lady's like pleading with the man, like, oh no, please. So he's like, okay. So he goes and grabs it, and then he wishes, oh, please bring our son back to life. And then about an hour or two later, they hear this like knocking at the door, and the old man's like freaked out, like, oh my gosh, like, our kids come back. And the old woman is trying to get downstairs to open the door. She's basically saying, like, I'm not afraid of my son, and why are you afraid of your son? And the old man was trying to explain to her, like, he's been dead for 10 days, like, I could barely recognize him, like, this
Yeah.
isn't gonna end well. So then she's trying to like scurry downstairs and unlock the door, and then the old man, he grabs the monkey's paw, and he makes a final wish that his son was dead. And then the old woman opens up the door, and he hears screaming, and he goes downstairs, and then that's kind of like how the story ends.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a really good read. I really liked it, and it just kind of made me more familiar with the origins of the monkey paw, because I feel like I see it pop up here and then, and um, it's great when you know where it actually came from. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I see it in the
yeah,
shows
that
too,
was
where
kind
it
of
does like, oh, like a curiosity store. They have like a monkey's paw. Or whatever.
yeah, the monkey's paw. It
So,
made this big like
so if
mysterious.
there was, obviously it's fake and just from a story, but like if that was real, would you try to use it? Would you try to outsmart it and think of like a wish that like you could, how you could phrase it to not backfire on you, or did you just say fuck it and just not use it?
I think if you had nothing else to lose, I'd say go for it. Like, if you don't have things you care about in your life,
Yeah. Or
why
maybe
not? Right?
hold on to it, like right until like like assuming you're in a situation where you are on a deathbed, like a deathbed type of situation where it's like just hold on to it. If you get cancer or something and you're dying, just be like, hey,
Dude, could you
like
imagine, like, if you wished for world peace, and then it was like,
everyone
okay,
dies.
like, how many people would have to die in order for that? And then you're just like the
Everyone,
destroyer of worlds, right?
yeah,
Like, what the freak?
world
So
peace.
like, you gotta
Everyone
be
just
you gotta be
dies.
really careful, what you say when you use that thing. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would, honestly. I don't think I would, unless, like I said, unless I had nothing else to lose. I
Yeah,
don't. I don't
I
think.
think I would wait until like, like obviously you could just die randomly, but like, yeah, I'd wait just as like a hold on to in case I was like in a deathbed situation and I was just like dying of cancer or
Yeah.
something, and I'd be like, well, like, what's it gonna do? Kill me? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just gonna wish that I didn't have cancer anymore. You know what I mean? And be
Mm.
like, well, see what happens. Like, I
So it kills you. You don't have cancer
well,
anymore. You're dead.
yeah, but that's the thing though. If it doesn't, I was gonna die anyway of the cancer. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
like, you know what I mean. So it's like, if that is how it backfires, like, oh well. But that's weird. I would have thought, yeah, I thought the monkey paw thing had like a farther back origin than that. That's funny. It's 1902.
Oh
Just
yeah,
funny
and it's
story.
just by some English author guy. it has nothing to do with India except for the fact that in the story that's where you got it.
Cool.
Because I thought it was like some kind of Indian folklore kind of thing,
Yeah.
but
No. I want weird because I was looking at stuff too to like talk about with this, and I was like, okay, what I want to research, and, like talk about, and the thing that I thought of that I wanted to go over, and I might share my screen and go over this with you, but like I've seen this symbol over the place, so I can show this on my camera, like from the Kabbalion and just tons of like other books show that the squaring of the circle symbol, and so I wanted to research that a little
oh,
bit
is that the
more.
one with this? Yeah, with the circle. Is that the triangle in it too?
Yeah. So here,
Yeah,
I'll pull up an image of it because you can see my screen right now, correct?
yeah.
Okay. So I made some bookmarks the other night here because I didn't fully research it. I was just like, I'm just gonna look up some stuff here and research like it with you, while we're on here, so we can kind of go over a few things. But yeah, I wanted to bring it up. So it's like it's also called like the alchemist sign because it is used like in alchemy, but it also has like other symbolism and things as well. Um, and I feel like this is something you see all over the place, but I always kind of knew the basics of some of the things that it meant, but I never really like dove into it. So I want to kind of do that with you. Let me bring up on the actual stream. Let me put down my camera a little bit. All right, so everyone else can
So I
see what I'm
noticed
talking
there's
about
like a
here.
couple different variations of it. So is
Yeah,
is the correct one just like kind of the most simplistic one?
yeah. So, bit like if you're going for the most accurate, it'd be like this one, like here. Like it's
Hmm.
kind of, but like obviously you could do it different ways.
Or it kind of
This
reminds me of that Harry Potter logo.
yeah, this is like
Not the
one of
logo,
the
but the symbol.
Yeah, this right here is actually one of the first like images of it here. I'll pull up a few things here. So one of the things I looked up was just on this, and so now this part is this my page is learnreligions.com, which I've actually read some stuff on here before, and I've actually seen where they've been wrong about several things. So take it for like what it's worth. But I kind of want to read some of this of kind of like what it means. And so it says, what does squaring the circle mean? And then we're going to go back down because it has like a couple other things in like
Do you
mathematics and geometry.
do you know when it first came around? Like what
I
year?
do. Yeah. So
Oh, okay.
so the first sides so the first time it was like written and like in print was actually here, let me show you. There's two these were the earliest times I was able to find. Let's see. Pulling it up. So the earliest time that I found was in this book that came out in 1617, where it says, I'm sure I'm going to say this wrong, Atalanta Fugwines is an alchemist treatise written by Michael Mayer, an alchemist, author, physician, and counselor to King Rudolph II from
Okay.
1609 to 1611. But he wrote this, and basically he had like all these images. This webpage kind of goes through all these
Kind
different
of that's a cool
images.
picture there.
Yeah, it was really awesome. The
Yeah.
wind carried him in his belly, and
Yeah.
but yeah, he wrote all of these. But then this is the first time. I'll scroll
Are
down
those
to
like
it.
original artworks
Yeah,
or?
this is all original artwork from
Oh,
that
okay.
manuscript in the 1600s. So
Nice.
this is the first time that ever like that I could find that ever showed up on paper was this right here, and
So
it
that the
says
first time that you could find it was in some kind of alchemist book.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's because it's supposed to be it signifies the philosopher's stone. And so
Oh
the
yeah,
the
yeah.
text that went with it was make of the man and woman a circle, of that a quadrangle, and of this a triangle, of the same a circle, and you will have the stone of the philosophers. And that's what he's like showing
Hmm.
here.
Dude,
Um,
the Philosopher's Stone, that thing is crazy too. Like I've looked into that, and there's a whole process that people have posted online of like how you can actually create one.
well, and that's what's so hard
It's
about
like
lot
urine and a bunch of other stuff. That's
yeah, and
crazy.
that's what's so hard about a lot of this stuff is like you kind of fall down a rabbit hole of like researching this. Like we could do like a whole episode just talking about
Right.
the Philosopher's Stone and like all the depths that goes along with that because it's there's a lot to it. So it's kind of hard because when you're studying stuff like this, like the squaring of the circle, there's so much symbolism behind it and so many different things that's like no matter what, I feel like you're never gonna at least I'm never gonna fully do it justice. We're gonna hit everything. Um, but I kind of want to hit a few parts of it. So one of the things that is like alchemy. So we'll go over the alchemical part of it first. So I'm just going to read this here. It says a symbol of a circle with a square within a triangle within a larger circle began to be used at the 17th century to represent alchemy and the philosopher's stone, which is the ultimate goal of alchemy. The philosopher's stone, which was sought for centuries, was an imaginary substance that alchemists believed would change any base metal into silver or gold. I mean, it's theorized to do a lot more than that, but
I thought it was something about eternal life too, right?
yeah, and that's what I mean. I probably do
Mm.
stop using the webpage because they go into very few details. But there's also the philosophical meaning behind it, behind like the symbolism of like the circle meaning like eternity. Basically, the circle is like time, never ending eternity. Uh, this also represents like the spiritual realm, things like that. And then the square represents and I'll bring it up again. So then the square represents like our mortal realm, and this is where a lot of the alchemy came into it because it's like each of the elements. So it's like fire, water, earth, wind, and
Oh, okay.
but it's also just represents being like stable and like our mortal earth and realm. And then the triangle represents like the Trinity, like within the Christian faith, at least. Like there's other
So
representations
the
of it.
inner circle is the earth, the square is represents of the elements, the triangle is the divinity, and
And
then the what's the outer circle?
is eternity, like eternal, like
Oh, okay.
timelessness, eternal, like encompassing everything. Um, is But that's the thing is there's within so many different philosophies, like people take these things to mean different things. Because, for example, the
Mm.
triangle only means like the Trinity within more like Christian sects and Christian like belief systems, where in other systems it just means like I'll bring up.
Dude, that's one thing I want to do some research in on as well, like the Godhead. I think that's interesting.
Yeah. So
Maybe we
then
could do a show on talking about that.
yeah, and this is where it goes into as well. Something I find really interesting is just sacred geometry, and it like the symbolism of sacred geometry. And so this one goes to it a little bit more with a little more detail here, just kind of like this AI overview, where it kind of goes over it. So it goes over the circle, which symbolizes within sacred geometry unity, oneness, wholeness, eternity, the source of everything, the spiritual realm. And then the square symbolizes stability, the physical world, practicality, groundness, and the four directions of the four elements: earth, air, fire, water. And then the
Mm.
triangle equals balance, harmony, the uh, union of three principles: mind, body, and spirit, divine creation, and an active creational force of consequence of consciousness. And so that's why I say like it depends on like what religious or sect and like people believe. Like this changes meaning, but it keeps kind of the same overall spiritual meaning still. Where it's like, oh, the triangle to like Christians could be like, oh, the Trinity. But even if you're not Christian, it still means balance and harmony and union of three principles, which is basically a non-Christian way of saying the Trinity. Like that's like basically the point of the Christian Trinity is those things, is the balance and
Mm.
the harmony and stability um, of like the Godhead. And so
Right.
I find it really interesting that it's like no matter how you break it down, you can see it different ways for different religious perspectives, and it still basically has the same meaning. Um, and you can actually use, and it talks a little about this as well, about using sacred geometry in meditation. So I know, like we've talked about meditation a little bit, and like things that you can like you can focus on when meditating. Have you ever focused like I doubt it, but I'm just gonna ask in case you have. Have you ever focused on like any of these shapes or like any shapes in general when meditating?
So every time that I've meditated, initially, if I get to the point where I can start seeing some kind of like color pattern,
Mm-hmm.
it usually starts with like a purple, like a light purple type color, maybe like a little bit more pink than purple, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, it's this color
And
that doesn't fully exist, but it's a purplish color. I get what you're.
yeah, yeah,
I know what you're saying.
and it's more of like a blob, like amorphous blob type shape where it doesn't really have a shape. It's just kind of floating or there. Um, the only shape that I've actually ever seen when meditating is like kind of that Eye of Horus kind of shape,
Mm-hmm.
but I've never really focused or tried to see like squares or triangles or anything like that.
So do you remember? Hopefully you're okay talking about this, but do you remember talking about before too, like when you leave your body and you had that feeling of like, oh, you need to like get back and like go home and certain things like that, like when
Yeah.
meditating. So a lot of with sacred geometry, it's like symbolism to represent things that you, in a spiritual sense, can instantly recognize and can help you. And so next
Mm.
time, I would say this would be something I'd want you to try to do. Because I'll do it as well. It's like during this week and maybe next week we can talk about it if you had any kind of results with it. Is meditate and then use the specifically these three different pieces of sacred geometry in your meditation and see how it makes you feel. Like see if it changes your meditation at
So
all.
just like visualize, like try to visualize those.
Yeah, and so and put your will into it. So for example, um, the circle signifying like unity, wholeness, and the spiritual realm. So when you start meditating, you sit down, you start meditating, visualize just like just a circle. Just visualize the circle and like focus on that and see what it makes you feel like. See if it helps you connect more with that greater consciousness and the spiritual realm faster.
Mm.
Focusing on that symbol, and then when you're ready to come back to your body, like to start ending your meditation and kind of ground yourself, visualize the square, uh, and focus on that. Now, I've never tried the triangle. Strangely enough, like funny enough, I've never tried that. But both the square and the circle help me with meditation. Because like if I'm starting it, and if I remember having like a hard time like getting into it, because sometimes your mind is just more distracted than other times, and you're having a hard
Right.
time with it. Visualizing the circle helps me reach like that spiritual connection a lot faster, and then when I'm ready to end it, like picturing that square helps me like stabilize and like return to my body a lot faster and a lot more like with a lot more stability. It feels like, um,
Okay.
but I could just be crazy and I could be wrong. So I want you to try
You
it as
could just
well.
be a crazy
I could
person.
just
Yeah.
be a crazy. That is 100% possible. So that's why I want you to try it as well. Just come on talk about it next week. But that's what it goes over here as well, talking about that. And there's something that I want. Oh, I wanted to show you these images. Sorry, I kind of got sidetracked. So we have the image here originally, and then the second time that I was able to find this image was in 1653 with this book here, which this is the only place I could find pictures of it online of this book. This Amphitheater of Eternal Wisdom by Heinrich Kudenrath, which is a great name, fucking fantastic name. And he wrote this Alchemy, Magic, Occult, Cabal, and it's this book here. The only place I could find it was this. There was
That's a
this
really cool
eBay.
book.
Yeah,
I
so
wonder if you could get a. I don't want an original copy, but
yeah,
just like a regular.
yeah. So you can buy this first edition copy for 15 grand, which
Yeah,
but that
I'll
has these
pass.
images here. But so check out just some of this imagery here. So this image right here is the here. I'll bring this up bigger. So this is what we're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about, where it's got the circle, as you can see. Inside
Mm.
of that, you have the square, and then inside the square, you have that triangle. And
And
so,
then yeah,
and then obviously within here, you have all of this other, like you could spend hours like studying this and reading this and like diving into all the everything that's going on here. But yeah, it's got lots of other things going on. But that is still got that same shape. Then if you look, you can see other places as well, like this imagery here with the circles within circles. Um,
right.
and then here
I've
with
seen
this
that before. Like if you go down on the.
this one.
Yeah, I've seen that before, where it has like the three circles in
Yeah.
sequence like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, which also is another. We could dive deeper into the three circles, but it's like the different spiritual realms, with like being like
Mm.
Earth, and then like the other spiritual realms beyond it, and I won't diverge go into all that because that'd be like another whole thing. But then there's this image here as well.
If we're in a simulation though, those are just other servers.
Yeah, yeah, those other servers with the circles within circles with the triangle. So and you see this repeat, and I feel like a lot of people would be like, oh, well, it's just like they're just shapes, but like you're if you're looking for them, you're going to see them everywhere. But I dispute that with how common and how often these come in within theology and within like occult. Like you see these all over the place. And
Right.
one thing that I want to see this is going around like if you ever look at Mormon temples, like LDS temples, they use a ton of imagery on their temples. And I looked up here, I'm gonna pull it up here. So if you ever look at a Mormon temple, the way that they build them, it is all based off of the squared circle. The
Mm.
entire building itself is built as a square, and the ground that they build it on is always within a circle, which is always within a square. And then within the temple itself, they have triangles, and they build it on the like all throughout, like all the windows. Like for example, here's one of the windows on temple, and then here is the gates around the temple,
Oh wow.
squared the squared circle. Here's the stonework on the temple. Here's like more stonework on the temple. Here's the ceilings inside of the temple, squared circles with the triangles. Um, even their doorways, like the entire and look on each side of the doorway, the squared circle. The like
Right.
Mormon religion uses the squared circle more than any other religion I was able to find. It is a constant throughout. Like even look at their grounds around the temple,
Mm.
circles within circles within circles with the square building. And then once you're
Yeah.
in,
Yeah.
and then once you're in the square building, there's triangles. Um, and again, we're here with more of the fences. And then like if you zoom out and you look at even like the city planning of like the Temple Square, it's circles with the square buildings and the circles within it's all circles and squares on top of each other with the triangles. Now,
Mm.
um, there's a reason that they do this. Are you familiar with the use of sacred geometry with like and this is where it sounds really woo woo, but
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
with basically gathering like energy, like spiritual energy, and like force.
I'm vaguely familiar. I heard about it before, but I don't know a whole lot about it.
Okay, so basically with this is you have the circle, which is like again the spiritual, and this is again comes back to a lot of the same thing of creating like protection circles. Like if you're ever doing like a ritual and you're trying to summon things, you have a circle as well. So you have the circle which connects you to the spiritual realm and draws in spiritual energy, and you can also use that as like a protective force if you use it correctly. And then you
Mm.
have the square, which is taking that spiritual energy and grounding it. It's grounding it to that location so you can actually use it. And then
Okay.
so if you and then there's a whole other thing going on along with this as well as with like flowing water. I was gonna like there's another holy location as well which has a whole circle that's all flowing water and then it's got squares within that, but I was like I don't want this to go on too long, me just bringing up images. But like the point of it is that many religions throughout all of history have used a circle to bring in holy energy, and basically to the way that I see it with my crazy self is that I see it as it's a for some reason these certain shapes have a way of connecting with other dimensions and bringing in and
Mm. I
attracting
wonder if it's more of
beings.
like a frequency, like all everything has a frequency, and I wonder
Yeah,
if those shapes have a certain frequency as well,
yeah,
and maybe
exactly,
those frequencies help with that. Yeah.
exactly. And so
Uh,
the
and that kind of reminds me of those like when you're doing I've read about like rituals and stuff. You could have like protective circles and those sorts of things. Kind of reminds me of that.
exactly that's exactly what it's like. And so you use the circle to draw it in, use the square to stabilize it and to set it. And then you can do that more like over and over again to more concentrate
Yeah.
it, to draw in more, to concentrate it more, and do it that. And then you can add writings, and this is where we were talking about the protection circles. If you draw another circle around that, you can add writing to indicate your intentions and to add as a protection or as a prison or things like that.
That's
But I
cool.
don't know. I find it really interesting. I would just find sacred geometry really interesting, and I find it really interesting the origin of that squared circle of like where that came from. So basically, to kind of tie it up of like its original origins, where it came from, is with those original manuscripts where it was a sign of the alchemist stone, and we can go over the philosopher's stone, and where it was a sign used by alchemists in order to do that. because it was also seen as impossible, because the whole thing of squaring the circle, of doing the math on that, of trying to have a circle to square with the same circumference, it's was seen as like an impossible task. Just and that was the impossible task of the alchemist, was to create the philosopher's stone. And so that's why
Mm.
it was the symbol of the philosopher's stone, is because it was a symbol of an impossible task. um, and so, but it's still something worth striving for. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I just thought that was really
Yeah, it's
interesting.
cool.
So anytime you see that symbol now, um, that's the origins of it was through the alchemical, and then it has those various meanings. So I just find that interesting.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being, you know, the earth and the elements and the Trinity and the, you know, what was the outer circle part of it?
The hour circle is the spiritual realm.
The spiritual one. Yeah. So I like that interpretation of visual concept of it. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I didn't know it was on that many LDS temples, Mormon temples.
yeah, and they and that's the thing. It's on other religions as well. That was just the one that I was able to find the most of, was within
Yeah.
the Mormon religion, where it's like they don't hide it. Like I feel like a lot of other religions very much like hide it within there, but they may have like one of them.
Mm.
Whereas like the Mormon religion is just everywhere. It's just like, oh yeah, in the ground we have the buildings we built, the fences, the windows, the stones, like everywhere. So I just thought that was really
Cool.
interesting.
Well, appreciate everybody who made it this far and for hanging out with us. We'd love to get some ideas. So if anybody has any ideas of what they want to have us talk about, feel free to put them in the comments. And yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you.